Oh, let's go. What up, what up, what up? For the streamers out there, you know how fun OBS can be. And sometimes I'm never quite sure what's gonna happen when I click that button. What's up, guys? I have a little agenda in my head. I was putting together my allocation percentages just to check in on that. It took me a little longer than I thought it would, honestly. Thank you, Null. Audio's good. Blew out the tower yesterday. Got to get the dust out, ready for the bull run, you know. All gas, no brakes. What up, guys? So we'll talk about legacy. Obviously, if you ever want me to talk about anything, just throw it in the chat and we'll talk about it. I'm trying to pull up. Let me pull up one thing real quick. The last video I did. A bunch of people were asking for stuff. And gals. Karen, what up, Karen? Yeah, I think we're doing things, you know. I think we are a little overextended, hence my title of GC. But overall, we are cooking, you know. I think we're up maybe a little too much pre-halving, but there ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm not gonna fight it. Trying to pull up these comments. There she is. Okay. So we got what, 23 people here? So this is my like trading journal, my chat trading journal. How we feeling? Are we bullish, neutral, or bearish? You can just type it in the chat. I'm feeling personally bullish long term. I think it would take me a lot to be bearish near term. I'm gonna assume we'll go pink today. I'm gonna assume most of chat is probably bullish. I don't think anybody's neutral here. I can see a bearish argument, but I don't know. Jack's scared. I don't know how you act on the bearishness, you know? Foolish, poolish. So I'm gonna say bull long term, obviously. I mean, else why would you be here? I think near term, we're probably kind of neutral generally. And it would take a lot, I think, to flip bearish, right? Yeah, I agree. I think we are a little overextended, and it depends on the assets too, right? Are we talking alts? Are we talking Bitcoin, ETH? Depends. Yeah, I said in the alt video yesterday. By the way, if you're not subscribed, give me a subscribe, give me a like, whatever, blah blah blah. I said in the alt video yesterday, I was talking about Solana and how it looked overextended. Anything up 20% a day, 50% a day, probably a good idea to you know, reduce a little bit on that position. Not investment advice, but just something to think about in the future. So as far as allocations, I'll get to my breakdown in a second. But you know, I'm a BTC maxi, so that's where I want to be. I trade the other stuff to get more BTC at the end of the day. So I generally don't have like a long-term hodl ETH position or something. It just historically isn't the move. But in the moment, you know, I like ETH, I like Link, I like Sol, I like AAVE. There's some other stuff we can probably talk about, but I like those four specifically. It's funny that Arthur Hayes today says he bought Sol. I hope he is kind of kidding. I hope he bought sooner than that. But hey, you know, again, you never know someone's time horizon when they're tweeting about something, you know. If they're talking about a coin and their target is 400 in 6 months or 400 in 2 years, right? You don't know. What do they care about? a 15% drop over the next 2 weeks, you know? They don't. If they think it's a cyclical long-term play, then that's what they do. They buy whatever they think is right, right? So you always got to keep that in mind, because I'm sure people are giving him crap for that, for that tweet, which was basically the top, you know? Someone was asking me in the YouTube comments about AAVE, and I was bringing up this CoinGecko regulatory shit list, basically, from the SEC. And again, in yesterday's video, I said, look, a lot of these coins that people like and are popular do have a regulatory risk from a US perspective. If I can find that list here. Yeah. Alleged SEC securities, right? Yeah, so this is the list. This comes from SEC documents, basically. When they're charging other coins or people with stuff, they are mentioning these coins directly. Now, that's where this list comes from. So is an SEC regulation going to destroy Solana from a fundamental perspective? No, but is it going to wreak havoc on the price if something comes out where the SEC is charging the devs or something, right? Or they're saying it needs to be delisted or whatever. Yeah, that's going to wreak havoc on price, obviously. And you also kind of have to play devil's advocate here and realize they're already deep in Binance, right? They've been dealing with Binance for years. Solana is more a newer horizon type thing. And if Solana starts popping off price-wise and everybody's talking about Solana and it's up 100% in a week, whatever, right? That's going to start to get more attention from the regulators. So just something to think about, you know, in the back of your mind, like, here's the list. Do I want to be exposed to this stuff in a large way, long-term, potentially based on the risks? If the answer is yes, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what your answer is. I'm just saying, like, it's important to think about that, because you don't want to be hit with an unknown or something, right? From like a black swan perspective. I'm not saying that Solana isn't investable or whatever. I'm just saying, look, it is what it is. So keep that in mind. So back to AAVE, they were asking, like, does AAVE have a regulatory overhang or something, right? I don't think AAVE individually does, even though you could argue anything that is minting coins has an issue. But I think the entirety of DeFi in Europe, in the US, is eventually going to look a lot different, unfortunately, than it does now. So from that perspective, anything that touches DeFi, yeah, I think that has a regulatory risk. Is the SEC going to act on that in the next 6 months, in the next year? I don't know, right? But they're clearly going after the low-hanging fruit with SafeMoon and with, I saw something about the stablecoin from PayPal that they're targeting now. So we need stablecoin regulation. We all know that. But anyway, just something to think about that I don't think enough people like talk about, but it's important to just say, hey, what are the risks here, right? Custodial risks, exchange risk, blah, 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 right? Go down the list. Think of everything you can. ETH has like a minor regulatory risk. I think it's a security. I think it's historically been a security early on. I don't think the SEC is going to win that fight in the future, but they may just give it a pass. I don't know. Anyway, so regulatory conversation, boring, whatever, but it's important to just think about that. So as far as allocation, I like mostly BTC, obviously. I mean, that's where the party's been at for the most part. And then cash, there's a question of long versus short term right now. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But if you're interested in getting yield on your cash, there are ways to do that through ETFs, through money market accounts, your bank. I don't know what the Apple Pay rate is. Somebody can, if you use Apple Pay, let me know. That's through Goldman Sachs, I believe. But if you've got cash that's idle and you're not getting a yield on it, you're losing money. You're getting diluted, right? So it's like having ETH and not staking it, or having some coin and not staking it. So again, not investment advice, but definitely look into that if you're just holding money in a bank account at 0.1% in a savings account, right? There are plenty of ways to get yield on that. Legacy, I'll talk about my failed plan on the S&P, but Legacy's bounced quite a bit after that Fed meeting. And the cup and handle reality may play out. You know, it's crazy to say that, but it might. So the Fed held rates. Trueflation still has us at like 2.4% or something. And the next CPI, we can look, it's got to be coming up within the next 2 weeks for October. But the US, yeah, 2.4 on Trueflation. This is an estimate of real-time data for those who don't know what that is. Let me just look up the next CPI. Release, I guess, is November. Okay, yeah, November 14th. I was going to say November 10th, but so we'll know more about October in November 14th, but the estimates are flat, basically. And that's just important to keep an eye on for what the Fed's going to do. Ideally, we don't want the Fed cutting rates. If they're cutting rates, something really has hit the fan, you know? So yeah, we need to be restrictive. We need to be higher for longer. We're still not at the targets we need to be at. End of story. You know, if you're data dependent, that's what you're looking at. You can say unemployment's ready to explode. You can say the economy's ready to fall apart. You can say the numbers are fake. I'm not going to disagree with you, but we have to use the numbers we have, make an opinion, and go from there. I don't know. What are you going to do? There's still obviously geopolitical stuff. This is important for oil, which we'll talk about, which is also important for inflation. And then as far as like exchanges, I had somebody asking me about hardware wallets and exchanges. I prefer Kraken. They're a sponsor of this channel. I've used them for years. I've used them, around when Gox exploded. So I've used them for a long time. I think they're great. I think they have the lowest fees amongst US exchanges. I would avoid Binance personally, but again, that's up to you. That's just a risk you have to deal with. And then on the legacy side, you know, there's tons of like brokerages and other ways to get exposure to things like GBTC if you want, or BitX, which is the leveraged Bitcoin ETF. There's also a short ETH futures. A short futures ETF launched today. I don't know that it's SETH, right? Seth from ProShares. Because I know some people, like, they don't want to play in the crypto native playground. They want to play in the legacy playground. So it's good to just know, like, you know, where can I get exposure to certain aspects of stuff, right? So there's BITI, which is the short Bitcoin ETF. There's BitX, which is the leveraged ETF, and there's WGMI, which is miners ETF. What's up, Fed? Anyway, this is my current allocation. I just checked this, updated over the past 30 minutes. Took me a while. There used to be pretty decent like portfolio management tools. They just could never make money. You know, it's kind of like the CryptoWatch problem. Nobody wants to pay for anything in crypto, so they have kind of gone under over time. But anyway, so I like ETH more now that everything else sort of moved around it. I don't think ETH's going to move on its own. There's also a massive short, Sifu. He was a dev or something. Anyway, somebody's still massively short on-chain ETH. So if you're long, you want that person to get liquidated. That's just the way it is, right? So we haven't seen that yet. Sol looks fine from a multi-month perspective. It's obviously overheated. It's pulled back a little bit. Link, same thing. I think that's fine from a multi-month perspective, and so is AAVE for me, which is why I'm holding those. I don't plan on reducing that, regardless of where they hit. I think these are just long-term cycle things based on the cloud. What's up, Joey? And then, like I said, yield is good right now. And then on the legacy side, a lot of this is Bitcoin too. So a little bit of Coinbase, because why not? A little bit of a tiny bit of Hood, GLD, QQQ, and then NVDS is a short NVIDIA ETF, which is kind of insane, but I think it looks good. We'll talk about that. And then just some other stuff to think about would be, I don't think any of this is relevant anymore. Havings in less than 6 months, the spot ETFs in less than 6 months, and we don't have Head and Shoulders anymore. We don't have the 28K resistance. We're above the cloud, right? I don't really have any notes on ETH other than it's just like turbo lagging, you know, lagging everything. Why is ETH alive? What's going on? I don't have any ideas there, but from a trade perspective, kind of an issue for ETH. I talked about this on Twitter, but there's this list that I made of all these other coins that are up more than ETH in the past month. And the question is, what's it going to take for ETH to actually do something? Let me just pull this up real quick. Yeah, so all of these have beaten ETH. INJ, that's Gosp, that's his coin if he's here. INJ's beaten ETH. Rollbit, which is kind of an embarrassment, but whatever, I get it. People are speculating a lot on that exchange. And some whales are buying the coin. Solana we know, Mina, I don't actually know what that even is. Somebody know what Mina is? Is that like a storage thing? Thanks, Builder. Chainlink we know renders the AI coin, right? Thor, Rune. I honestly couldn't tell you what that is. It might be a layer 2. Neo is some super old like Chinese Ethereum. Near is another layer 1. It has a pulse. The Decentraland is metaverse crap. Aptos is a layer 1, and then the Graph is a like data provider. Anyway, it's just super odd that all these coins are up way more than ETH in the past month. So I think you're hoping on some rotation from some of this stuff. And this isn't even the full list, right? This is just like mid to high caps, let's say, relative to ETH. Just kind of interesting that ETH is just, you know, sad and lonely. We'll talk about the minor stocks for sure. Anyway, so that's ETH. We'll talk about alts. But yeah, it's just a good idea to take some notes for yourself. I recommend at least once a week, but you know, monthly for sure, to just see like, what do I need to do? Do I need to adjust my allocations? Do I still agree with this from a trading thesis perspective? Whatever, right? Like, am I overweight cash? Do I need to move something on or off chain? Do I need to make some adjustments here? Anyway, this is just an example. What I do personally in my own head. I want to talk about some charts from Looking into Bitcoin. They do really great Bitcoin specific data. That's kind of a mix of, I guess it's mostly on-chain, but also not on-chain stuff. Some macro stuff that they've added. The one metric that's actually done really well historically is MVRV, which honestly I don't talk about enough, but it's pretty much called every bottom and top every time, you know. Like it's really never been wrong, and not enough people talk about it, I don't think, for how good of a hit rate it's had. And if you're curious, it's looking at market cap versus realized cap, which is just on-chain activity, and it's looking at basically when the last time Bitcoin has moved. So it sort of timestamps that value and then aggregates it and checks that against the market cap. So for me, I kind of think of this as unrealized value versus realized. When MVRV is super high, there's a lot of unrealized value positive. And when that's reset, there's less of a reason to move anything, right? At least for most people. They're kind of getting priced in as long-term holders at that point, right? If you're not moving your coins at a loss, then you're probably just holding over a longer period of time, most likely. Anyway, so right now MVRV has gotten above 1, it's gotten above 0, and it looks very similar to every other very early stage bull run. So this is another great just sanity check. Is MVRV at 6? Maybe that's a little hot. Maybe it's time to take some off the table. Is MVRV below 0? It's probably a good time to load the boat. Is MVRV super negative? Then that's probably the bottom historically. Something else interesting here that you also see in like Google Trends and a few other things, if you're looking at like bull div, bear div type stuff, I think this is the only time when we had a double top where we had a bit of a bear div on MVRV. I don't think this was a bear div here. Basically, we're getting a higher high in price and a lower high in MVRV. Anyway, super interesting on-chain metric to look at. That's really done quite well. I had the Puel multiple up here for a second, and this is another one that's okay at sort of giving you this oscillator picture. It looks at basically how fat and happy are the miners today versus the past year. If miners are struggling, then we're in the green here. And again, you can think of this, at least I think of this as like unrealized versus realized value. Or are they in profit, are they in losses type thing. If miners are getting super, super rich, they're more likely to sell coins, right? Not that they actually are selling, but it's just the potential, So for like a sanity check, again, is the Puel multiple at or above 3.5, Something else to also remember is for halving, you can see it here. If you look at, I think this was the halving, the Puel multiple dropped in half, right? So we should get, and it dropped in half over here, right, for this halving. So whatever the Puel multiple is now, in 6 months, or whenever halving is, it'll drop to 0.7, which will be what? Kind of about here. So there's something else another metric that I think is super useful or has been historically. I have the rainbow chart here as well, which started as a meme. What's up, Deerstalker? This metric started as a meme on Bitcoin Talk, which was a forum which still exists, I think, but was much bigger back in the day. And it's just a visual representation for overbought, oversold again, right? Similar to the log, power law corridor, the log, whatever it is. I can't think of the indicator. Anyway, they're all similar, but you can see where we're at historically, where we'd expect us to be for any given bull run. This looks to me currently very similar to 2016, 2015, You can see where we are here. We're still in the fire sale territory based on the labels for this. So again, another just sanity check for me. Are we at the bottom? Are we at the top? One thing to note about the top of this that, didn't quite perform so hot in the last run. And the question that a lot of people are asking and are assuming, oh, the next high will not have as high of a percentage move from the bottom, just as the previous 3 have not. We've clearly come down in the bull run territory each time. We're making less of a higher high each time. And then you also have to think about, was this Sam selling coins that did this? I don't know. Like, would we have gotten a second bubble high like we did in 2013, 2014 if SBF and FTX weren't messing with everything? Just something to think about. We will talk about AVAX, MST. Anyways, that's the rainbow chart. I think it looks good. I think MVRV looks good. I think those to me are kind of the two most important, like super hyper basic things to look at. I'm trying to think of what else is here that I usually pay attention to. The moving average heat map is super cool as well. I kind of talked about this on the moving average video this week, but it looks at price relative to the 200-week moving average, which historically has been a great indicator of, you know, should I buy here? Should I sell here? Are we super overextended? And the colors are the indicator for how fast is the 200-week moving. Is it moving up super quickly like it did in 2013, 2014? Or is it flat like it was in 2015? And again, you can see we didn't quite get to, the colors are super hard to see there, but we didn't quite get to red in the last cycle. Is that SAM or is that just a weakness in those cycle tops? I don't know. But another just super basic indicator, sanity check. And then probably my other favorite one is the 2-year moving average multiplier. We can zoom out. Again, just like, you know, as an oscillator, historically, are we at the bottom? Are we at the top? Are we overbought? Are we oversold? I've talked about this one a few times, but just a super basic 2 seconds, you know where we're at. On TradingView, I added a midpoint, like a midline in this to, again, get a kind of a good sense of like where we're at in the cycle, but still looks good. You know, this looks exactly where you'd expect us to look at. If I can select that part of it, at a super early bull cycle, and we're crossing above the 2-year moving average, and we're far below the multiplier of the 2-year moving average, which is currently at 150K. Just like in previous cycles, in the bear market, the multiplier will start to curve down. And then once the bull market picks up, ideally, the multiplier starts to pick up as well. So we're currently still curving down on the 2-year multiple. Anyway, these look good. It's curated. Most of this is super free. They have a paid component to it. But it's a great site to just go and look or bookmark this stuff, check it once a month, whatever you want to do. The last thing I'll just talk about is hash rate, which continues to just go insane. I mean, look at this thing. Absolute insanity. Relative to when all those Chinese miners dropped off. Just keeps hitting all-time highs. It's crazy. All right, let me catch up on chat. So I think hash rate rising is super bullish for the network. For miners, it's tough. You got to remember, miners are short difficulty, effectively. They're losing market share unless they're adding hash rate themselves. So that's why I think the industrial miners, it's a tough game over time. Just checking up chat here. Subline waiting, candle closes. Do I see a bear flag? Says Traumatized Wick. We'll take a look. I assume he means Bitcoin. Thoughts on Arthur's tweet about the Fed balance sheet? Yeah, I agree. They have that on here as well. Might as well bring it up if I can find it. Fed balance sheet versus BTC. So there's a lot of talk, and has been for a long time, about, are we in a upswing of the liquidity cycle? Are we still taking money out of the ecosystem? Do you look at M2? Do you look at the Fed balance sheet? Do you look at TGA? Do you look at the reverse repo? That's where I struggle with the liquidity question. Like, what actually matters? What should we look at? There's an argument for looking at all of it, but if you just look at the Fed balance sheet has continue to decline, and this is part of their QT. They aren't selling what they bought previously. They're just letting the duration finish, right? They're just letting it roll off the balance sheet, as they say. So from a bull bear perspective, we were obviously the most bullish immediately after COVID, after that stimulus. The network and the price shouldn't rely on constant stimulus to do well. But the question everyone's asking is, isn't QE, which is effectively the opposite of what's been happening since early 2022, isn't QE just automatically going to kick in eventually? Aren't we going to have to do some sort of stimulus in the United States? I think that answer is yes, and I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, where we're headed. We're going to have to inflate away the debt. That's a whole nother separate conversation, but it's unusual that if we're just looking at US liquidity, we can look at what global. If we're just looking at US liquidity, it doesn't quite make sense that we're rising in price here. Even with global liquidity, you can see that we are. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Yeah, that's better. You can see that we aren't exactly like expanding liquidity or M2, the money supply, by a lot here. We have expanded global M2 since the bottom, which you could argue is why we are where we are. But a lot of the macro people, I think they try to like over-explain what's going on here. It's like we have an ETF coming up, we have halving coming up. That's good enough for me. Then you have other people who say the halving doesn't matter, the halving's priced in, it's all about liquidity cycles. And we can look at that too in a way. If we look at high yield credit, I'm not going to explain junk bonds, but just basically like risk appetite versus not risk appetite. Even if we look at this, like right now, price rising would tell you that there's a bearish divergence, because we don't typically rise when high yields are falling, unless we're like early cycle. You could argue what, like this period in 2015. That's hard to see. Anyway, I'm not in that bandwagon of, not bandwagon, but I'm not in that camp of liquidity is all that matters. It matters a lot, but I don't think it's the end all be all. I think it's just a matter of headwind versus tailwind. Is it helping us or hurting us? Is the risk appetite helping us or hurting us? Are yields helping us or hurting us? Is inflation helping us or hurting us, right? Most of that stuff is hurting us from a price perspective, you'd expect, but we're still where we are, So the question is why? Are we just doomed to fail at these levels, or are we ready for higher highs once things turn a corner? I think you got to be careful with the macro guys who are very, very doomerish most of the time. Chris asks, do I speak Polish? I do not. I wish I did, but I do not. Just reading chat again. High cycle top. Oh yeah, the high cycle top. Funny story about high cycle top for those who've followed me for a while. We talked about this last cycle, and I said it's the only indicator that called the top pretty much exactly. If you got out, if you sold everything at 64, 62,000, whatever, you would be happy, right? Who cares that we got another high that was slightly higher? Looking back on that, it was the one indicator that actually told you what's going on, which is crazy. So this is a back-tested, for people who don't know what this is, it's back-tested. It's the 111 daily moving average and a 350 daily moving average multiple. And they sort of rationalize this and say that, it's close to pi. That's why they call it the pi cycle. Whatever, doesn't really matter. Basically, all you need to know is it's a back-tested specific MAs and an MA multiplier. And yeah, it was the only thing that told you that that was the top. You can see where this gets you into trouble though, because even in 2013 and 2014, we had two pi cycle top calls, right? So the question is, you get out on the first one and then what do you do? You know, where do you get back in? The next all-time high, I guess. You know, that's one way to play it. Or the next cross. You can see we had a cross here. These MAs are another way of expressing like overbought, oversold. Are we speeding up? Are we slowing down? That sort of thing. What is momentum, right? Just another like hyper-specific Bitcoin back-tested moving averages. So interesting that it actually picked up on the first high. And again, maybe from a bull bear div perspective, you could say, look, I'm not getting back in. Like if you're a pi cycle maximalist, you could say, I'm not getting back in until we get another crisscross or whatever on the pi cycle indicator, right? I don't know. We don't have like 10,000 data points on this, but interesting that it's worked out. Definitely something I'll be paying more attention to. What's up, Slip? Milad? I'll be paying more attention to it this cycle. You know, would I sell everything based on this alone? No, but luckily for me, the cloud, I think it was 56. I sold a bunch. Whenever the daily cloud started to look bearish and we started to break into the daily cloud, we had a bearish TK cross on this set of highs. That's when I sold a bunch of coins. But for me, the cloud is more important than pi cycle, but it's still valid, you know. Even at this time, we also had like, is this an ascending triangle? Is this a rising wedge? You can't really see that. Anyway, there was another chart this week in Legacy that I saw that looked exactly like this double top. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, that's looking at Bitcoin. It's free. They have a paid stuff as well. Check it out. All right, let's talk about some charts. Trading View. I was kind of looking at this. I was looking at this a lot this week. I know people hate the pitchfork. I don't know why. I still think we have room for more. I don't think this is a bear flag up here. I really don't. I mean, we can look at that a little bit closer. It's kind of looking at the 4 hour. Didn't even quite get to the like fib extension part. If we just delete everything. So the question is like, what is this? You know, we clearly have some sort of diagonal support. Originally, I was arguing like, look, this is probably an ascending triangle. It's got AAVE stuff. None of this has to be perfect, but I just don't want to see bearishness, right? I don't want to see a double top, you know, that this is better than a double top. So I'll take it. Now, alternatively, you could have said, well, this is maybe a double top, but didn't quite pan out that way. Broke up, broke down, had some volatility during the Fed meeting. I think it still looks okay. You know, it's not perfect. It's noisy, but I think it still looks okay. I'm not super worried about a mega breakdown. And the moment, one way you could measure that is with fibs. Again, it's just a fib tool on TradingView. Take the high, take the breakout point that makes sense. You know, you could argue, is that 30K? Sure, let's just say it's 30K. If we want to break down, we will probably find support between 32 and 33. If the market wants bullish continuation. If we break up, and I saw a bunch of articles with my name on it because I get Google alerts for my name. I was talking about 38K a few days ago. That's also where I'd expect us to go next. So, some people were trolling me and they're saying like, look, we're going to do this. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. It's messy, but it's possible. Yeah, looking at Bitcoin's great. The bittest of coins. Good to hear, Slip. There's some power bear dumping each time we cross monthly resistance. Question is, are they going to run out of dry powder? Yeah, I think the general argument for bulls is better here than bears. So if somebody wants to sell, if they're selling FTX holdings or something, I don't care. In the long term, what does it even matter? But yeah, I think this chart still looks fine. I think the diag is where you want to pay attention, because otherwise there's no other bearish argument here. Like we can go to the daily, we can just go down the list. Daily 5200, we got a bull cross a couple days ago, obviously late, but it is a bull cross. We're above the daily cloud, if I can find that on here, above the daily cloud by a lot. Daily cloud had you in at 28. The support on the daily cloud would be the key June, which is currently all the way down at 30.5. And really, I would just say, if we're going to break down in a serious way, we want to avoid getting back into the range. We want to avoid anything in here. So if we can hold above a 31 high, that's great news. But once we start chopping around in this range again, then it's a little less obvious where we might be headed. I would also pay attention to daily RSI, just vanilla RSI. We are a little bit overextended, right? Based on that. There is a bear div up here. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see, yes, we did have higher highs on less momentum. Is that enough for me to like sell everything? No, but am I going to be adding on a long that's leveraged here? Definitely not, right? When I see stuff like that. So I don't think it's a bad thing. We are just chilling up here. There's no way you could say we're bearish. And again, we're still in this pitchfork by a long shot. And I don't really plan on selling spot until we're in the 40s, right? Because if you look at the fan favorite, the weekly cloud, if I can find that on my list. First world problems. I have too many indicators on my chart. Weekly cloud is like, yeah, let's party. We are ready to eventually hit that 42K level. Stop loss on anything based on the weekly cloud is all the way down here. So it looks good. I don't have any complaints, No notes, as they say. BTC Google Trends higher. I assume that's what you mean, Joey. Yeah, I haven't looked at that. Is that on TradingView? I doubt that's on TradingView. But that's another like alternative data point. I finally got, one of my friends was texting me yesterday about Bitcoin price. It's like, oh, the normies are waking up. They are waking up. I think it's to the point now where it's probably starting to get widely reported on places like NPR or something, the normie sphere. So this is Google Trends for those who do not know. Google Trends look at search activity for specific terms. So we can look at, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, if I can spell it right. We can see what that looks like over the past month. We can look at, 12 months. We can look at over the past 5 years. This is just the United States. We can look at worldwide. Still Ethereum, sad little Ethereum down there. I'll bet, chat, I will bet you Solana looks like a hockey stick on Google Trends right now. So yes, the Google Trends are or made a higher high, right? For Bitcoin, for Ethereum. It's still nowhere near insanity levels, right? If you want to go all the way back to 2000, we'll go 08. Before Bitcoin's existence. At least in anywhere important, that might be too far. We'll go, we'll go 2013. No, we'll go 2012. Yeah, so you can see the 2017 searches for Bitcoin, although the way they compile this data has changed over time, but that was the peak. And you could argue over time there might be less people searching what is Bitcoin, right? That's valid, but price-wise, I think it's important to just have a basic viewpoint on Google Trends for stuff, just to see where we're at. I think it's valuable. I guess Solana, maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong. You know, I thought that would be up a lot. The other issue with Google Trends you have to be careful is, yeah, so if it's a real world word, that's going to get jumbled in with this unless you specifically search like blockchain or something. Let's see what this looks like. I mean, this looks good though. What is this? 20. So we'll go 2021. I know I'm bouncing around a lot. We'll go 2021. Let's go 9-1. This is for Solana. Yeah, so that's not as high as I would have expected it, but it's up there. Not really, it's not even up there, it's just starting. Anyway, interesting to look at this. This is another gauge for retail and normies, right? To me, this just says there aren't that many normies here. This is just like crypto people bidding up Solana, you know, which certainly seems like it. I couldn't tell you why Solana's up. I have no idea. If you look at TVL, if you look at any reasonable metric, I couldn't point to anything specifically. That's why I look at charts and prices, and I don't pay attention to other stuff most of the time. Is there anything else on here that's useful? It breaks it down by region too, and you can look at other queries, but historically, Bitcoin price has been pretty keyed into these Google Trends. So just another interesting data point. Anyway. All right, let's back to charts. Joey completely derailed us on a tangent. No, that's good. I like looking at all that stuff. We should get to look into Bitcoin to add it. It might actually be on. I wonder if it's on here. I bet it is. Anyway, I'll talk to them about it and we'll get it on there. They're really good at adding stuff. Where'd my charts go? Yeah, so Bitcoin looks good. I have no arguments for bearishness. You could say low time frame, bear div. I just can't think of anything that looks remotely bearish about this. We can look at the power law corridor too, which is the rainbow chart. Again, like, we look great. I have nothing to say. You know, we're at the bottom. We bounced where we should have. And that's it. This thing was created in mid 2018, I believe. So it is back tested. You know, it's curve fit based on previous 3 all-time highs, but looks great. Looks like the rainbow chart. What's the other one? I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, these are the halving dates. You know, what are we going to say? It looks exactly how it should based on where we sat. So Bitcoin looks great. I got nothing else to say. Should break up. If it doesn't, at like 32. If things get super angry, we get back into the range. That isn't bearish. It's less bullish, obviously, but as long as we're above the daily cloud, we're fine. So we look great. I have nothing else to say. Yeah, Joey, that power law corridor is great, isn't it? All right, that's BTC. How's ETH doing? So I did FOMO a little bit yesterday on an ETH long on GMX. Size-wise, not a lot. Not a lot, but I did open a leverage long, 5x. You know, what are you going to say about ETH? I wouldn't say it's the opposite of Bitcoin, but it's very neutral. It's very boring. And you could argue, like, look, this is the time to start adding to an ETH position or whatever. You know, I was getting excited at like what 1906, I think was my other spot price, somewhere in here. Then we broke down on ETH. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say about ETH either, other than it's still sideways. It looks okay. It looks okay. You know, we can do this like everybody has for the past 65 months, and I'm gonna in agreement with you. It is eventually probably going to break up, right? We could say it looks like that. A quick note about chart patterns. You want the chart pattern to break up when we are like 2/3 complete. So for example, what we don't want to see is this thing just go to the very tip, right? We don't want to see that. We want to see this break up before the tip, okay? We can add volume and have that conversation and say, look, volume is basically zero. This is an index. Oh, sorry, it is not an index. Let's go to the index. That's just Bitfinex. Here we go. There you go. There's your chart. Volume did pick up a little bit. I'll give you that. But it's not trending up. It's not moving higher, you know? This is the weekly cloud probably that I'm drawing on here. I think ETH will surprise people once it actually moves, but the question is, how long is that going to take, you know? The yearly pivot, 1990. We get above 1990, I like 3K. It's that simple. Just stupid simple price move from 2 to 3. But until then, kind of looks sad and weak. We can look at ETH on the log regression chart as well. Just gotta find it. There we go. What happened? Why did this break? Is it not in log? Is that why? No? I don't know. Did everything break? I don't know why. Oh, it's ETH BTC. That's why. All right. So ETH's rainbow chart, if you will, or log regression or power law corridor also gives you a similar like 3 to 6K, 3 to 7K. This will move up. We can go higher than that, blah, 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 obviously. The log curves are more generous and probably make a little bit more sense. Gives you a pretty crazy target of like 20K. And if we're going to bounce, this is the spot, right? These are all on TradingView. This is ETH log curve zones. Anyway, it's right. It's similar to the rainbow charts or whatever you want to call it. It's about where you'd expect it to be at the bottom if it's actually going to bounce. So it looks okay. It's got a lot of upside potential, as they say. So I don't really have anything else to say about ETH. Maybe on lower time frames, similar to BTC, what you want to see is this diag holding, and you want to see a breakout above 1850, you know, in low time frames. I think it's good that we're relaxing generally across the board here, personally. All right, let's talk about Sol. Make sure I have the right chart. Yeah. Sol had a crazy move. Again, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. It looks fine. I think the question I have when I see charts like this is if you haven't taken profit on a leveraged position, do you just hold it? Or, you know, what is going through people's heads here? I don't know. I was out of my leverage position all the way down here. I didn't re-enter, mainly because there wasn't liquidity on GMX to re-enter, but that's my own problem. So it looks fine. Like long term, it looks fine. It's above the daily cloud, which is, again, if we're just like going through the litmus test stuff, this looks fine. It's, I'm sure it's got a golden cross. Those have been super noisy. We can look at, you know, higher time frame crosses. That looks great as well. There's really nothing you're going to find on this that's bearish. The question is just how overextended are we? Surprisingly, there's no bear div on this, which is nuts on RSI. But to me, the problem here is the tweezer top, which is what the candlestick pattern this would be here. So what you don't want to see is exactly what you're looking at. You know, if you're bullish, if I could draw a straight line, you don't want to see two wicks like that look like that. You know, that's usually not a sign of bullish continuation. And the final kicker will be tomorrow's candle. If tomorrow's candle is below the body, it suggests bearish reversal. If it's below the wick of today's candle, you're almost definitely likely to see a bearish retrace. I think from a bullish perspective, you're probably hoping for something that just like holds in the range here. And we just like chop around. I don't know. I don't know anybody who's like looking at Sol here and thinking, yeah, this looks great. Like, yeah, 200 tomorrow, you know? Like it was up 20% yesterday. It's nuts. So of course this is probably going to retrace a little bit. People are taking profit. That's the issue with things that go up that quickly. People are in profit super quickly, right? And they are more apt to realize those profits. I mean, that's just how trading works. Just reading chat here. Had a similar bounce, melted to COVID. Look at Link ETH, Link BTC, Solana summer. It's not summer, null, it's winter. And again, why are people buying this? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. Look at any metric. I don't know. I could not tell you. I have no idea. No idea. On a lower time frame, I don't trade the low time frames. I just like to see what's going on, right? You tell me what this looks like. Okay, does that look bullish to you? I think it looks like an inverted Adam and Eve, personally, that just broke down. So I don't think, that's true, it is somewhere in Australia, you're right. I think this is gonna need to repair a little bit, let people take profit, let people get liquidated, whatever. It's probably gonna need a minute, you know. But the most bullish thing you will always wanna see is just holding on to those highs, flag out, pennant out, whatever. Long term, this looks totally fine, you know. If you're a Solana believer, I like 130. Sure, but what is this weekly candle? Yeah, it just looks okay. It would make more sense to me if some of the other coins moved a little bit, right? Against BTC, Solana had quite a move as well, right? I guess Binance will look. It looked fine yesterday, but obviously anything with a wick this big, you just have to be careful. You know, not something I would want to long at the moment. Ideally, this holds some sort of support, whatever this line is here. But as far as like a cyclical top or bottom, yeah, it could be. It looks great against BTC right now. It certainly looks great against ETH, because I looked at that the other day. I mean, it's not hard. A pile of dirt's going to look great against ETH right now. ETH not having the best time. Looks fine, you know? For all these charts, you just don't want to see it make a lower low, obviously, but you don't want to see it go below whatever resistance it just broke out of. If this thing retraces all the way back down and then goes up again, sure. But I wouldn't pile into this right now, but it does look okay, you know? Haven't looked at Link yet. Can, but we'll do that right now. Let's take a look at Link. And did anybody miss the Link trade? Because I feel like it went sideways for so long. Even I caught this trade, and I don't trade alts, you know? So like, who missed this trade? Did anybody? I think it was almost impossible to miss this trade. I guess if you were trading the range as like range low, range high, but you probably, unless you had a limit order at the range high to sell, you probably didn't even get to the position quick enough to sell fast enough, you know? It moved up that quickly. Anyway, it still looks fine. You know, from a cycle perspective, I like 30, but all these charts are attempting some version of a flag or a pennant. If I can draw pennant, falling wedge, all that stuff's fine. It looks good. I can't deny it. You know, this isn't every single alt, but you know, the top 5, whatever that moved, looked great. Did people miss it, Kai? I mean, we talked about that 850 level for months. I thought for sure that everybody caught a piece of this a little bit, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm too generous. Cloud perspective, I'm sure it looks great. You know, there's your cloud breakout on the 2-day. It looks great on the 3-day. It looks great on the daily. It's in the weekly cloud. Looks good. Looks great. Exactly what you'd expect to see on anything that's ranged for that long. Looks totally fine. It did move super quick fed. I'm guessing, you know, typically when you see a move that quick, I'm guessing there were a bunch of shorts that got liquidated or shorts that were closing positions. This was on the heels of Bitcoin moving too, right? I don't think Link moved first. I think Bitcoin moved a little bit, but I could be wrong. So yeah, like, look, are we overextended a little bit? Sure, but I think it looks fine. You know, I wouldn't be adding to a leverage long up here, but we look okay. If Link can hold above 10, great. If it can hold above 850, amazing. I wouldn't force any crazy trades here, but it looks good. Link BTC, someone was asking me about. They basically said, they slandered my name. They said I wasn't bullish enough. What I thought I said in the video, but maybe not. I said it somewhere. We're getting a series of higher lows. Great. You could argue, what, Adam Eve, ascending triangle, I don't know. You could argue probably some sort of bullish channel here too, right? It looks good. Do I think it's going to outperform this cycle? No, but in the moment, yeah, the chart looks fine, you know? It's breaking above its falling wedge, angry downtrend. It's above the cloud, I'm sure, on the daily, on the 2-day. It's above on the 3-day. What does it look like on the weekly? Almost in the weekly cloud. It looks fine. You know, I don't think people are going to sell alts anyway. I think they're just going to hold them regardless. I don't think most people like rebalance positions. I think they just hold it and then don't sell and then are depressed when it goes all the way back down, you know? This whole thing as well looks good. Even if we get another attempt at a low, you know, then you just say, oh, that's an inverted head and shoulders, right? Anyway, looks fine. I have no bearishness there in the moment. I just think from a flows perspective, eventually BTC is going to spank the pants off of everything. Yeah, AAVE. What I've been saying about AAVE is it looks a lot like Maker to me. Maker's a trade that I missed. It moved, you know, let's pull up Maker first. Maker moved like months ago, right? Look, if you missed Maker but didn't catch Link, what are you doing? Anyway, Binance. So Maker moved in July and June. So to me, this is what AAVE sort of looks like. Let me change this. It sort of looks like the Maker fractal, and this bear div still playing out on Maker. Like I said, I think last stream, maybe even the stream before that, I think Maker in the moment is just done for now as a trade, but still bullish. Just I think it hit its target, and that's it. Anyway, so that's Maker. Maker looks fine. If you missed Maker, like I did, then you're looking for other stuff. And AAVE looks similar. It's in the similar camp, I would say, of like DeFi. lending and borrowing. Looks okay. You know, it's above the 2-day cloud. It's above the resistance on the diagonal. Looks great. Just as a comparison to Maker, 120 to 130. Looks fine to me. So I like Maker less than I like AAVE, for example. But the USD pair looks good. Let's take a look at the BTC pair. BTC pair still kind of in a downward channel. Doesn't look great on the weekly. Maybe this is the one where I said Adam Eve ascending triangle. Looks okay, right? It doesn't look bearish. It has ascending triangle characteristics, trying to get out of this downward channel. Looks fine. Yeah, AAVE, it did have a big wick, just like kind of everything else has. Doesn't look as angry as Solana, but I don't know, like who's trading AAVE, you know? Like maybe people know what Solana is, but who the heck's adding to an AAVE position, you know? Like we're talking about the 84 people watching right now, you know, they know what AAVE is probably, but I feel like most people at this point may not even know AAVE exists other than seeing it on a market cap list. All right, let me pull up the comments from the video. Link Sol, we talked about storage and SIA. Storage is one I haven't heard in a long time. These are, I guess, Filecoin you could put into this basket too. It's always a struggle. Which exchange has the best data, the most data? Storage has been around for a long time. On the USD pair, doesn't look horrible. I'd say neutral. Let's go to like the 3-day cloud. Looks okay. Doesn't look terrible. Again, you could probably argue, is this, are we at the top of the range? Are we ready to break out? You know, that's up to you, but I wouldn't touch this. It doesn't look terrible, but I wouldn't touch it. Storage BTC, this has to look bad. Has to. Yeah, kind of reminds me of Dash, LTC. I don't know, unless there's like a narrative behind that. SIA probably looks even worse. Is it SC or SA? Oh yeah, it is SC. SIA is a super old coin. SIA looks good. I mean, you know, I said this in the video, but anything that's in this like cyclical range, the Dogecoin trade is similar, same idea. You know, who cares what it is? For me, you might like it because it has some narrative or something, but it's at a cycle low. It's an old coin that's listed. I don't know. Like, look, I wouldn't watch this like a hawk. I would set, if you want to buy it, not investment advice, but here's what I would do. It's above the high time frame clouds. Pull the trigger, set an alert at, what the hell is this on USD? Let's go 5 decimals. Okay. 0037. Sorry, 0025. Let's just make it round number. I would set an alert here. And if it got below that level, I would sell. And otherwise, I'm just holding this thing for a long time. And I'm setting an alert up here. And I'm saying that's probably resistance. I wouldn't overthink a lot of this stuff personally. Aquarius with the super question, super chat. Thank you, sir. Can you expand on using 1 MA with an exponential concept from your video? It looks like it gave good signals, but I didn't fully grasp. Yeah, so depending on the cross, this is all sort of like based on feeling and subjectivity and backtesting. So yeah, SIA looks fine to me. It looks bullish-ish. You know, I don't know. Like, look, this could go to 0 tomorrow. I don't know. Let's pull up BTC. So like, when we're talking about MAs, the 50 and the 200, too slow, right? From a entry-exit perspective, for the most part, on the daily. If we look at the 50 and the 200, through long trends, it's great. If we're sideways and choppy, not so much. So the first question is, do I use an MA? Do I use an EMA? Let's look at what is here's the EMA cross. Is that any better? EMA is actually worse? Is that possible? I know that's like impossible for you guys to see that, but I'm just trying to see how it lines up. Specifically, I'm looking at this cross here. Anyway, you have to backtest this and decide for yourself, like which do I prefer? You're trying to dial in the noise to signal ratio. But another thing you can do is look at I'm trying to find on my list here. Just looking at EMA. Sometimes this works. Nope. And MA. Come on, trading view. Moving. There are so many freaking moving averages. This used to work. SMA? There we go. So what I was saying in that video is, again, based on backtesting, people have sort of played around with the idea of MA versus exponential as a cross. From memory, I think the 100-100 was backtested by somebody at some point. And that's why I brought that one up specifically. Let me just make sure that's readable. Okay. So again, you kind of have to look on backtesting, like what makes sense. And you can do this quantitatively and like pull up a spreadsheet, right? And TradingView has like a backtesting strategy tester you can use. I don't use that too often, but it is there. So from a entry exit perspective, like you have to dial it in, you know, maybe the 50 EMA against the 100 SMA. That doesn't look terrible, right? And I'm just like spitballing here, you know, like we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. This is a mess, so that doesn't really count. We're in all the way down here. We are out there, back in. So you can see over periods of time, like any moving average cross is going to have issues, period, like depending on the speed of the market. So you'd have to keep that in mind. Nothing is perfect all the time. And you kind of have to read the market. Is it ranging? Is it truly bullish or bearish, right? For me, like I said, I just prefer to say, okay, where is it on the cloud, right? I know these settings have been backtested. I know I've looked at them for a decade. They make sense to me. For me, this is just easier because I don't have to fool around with backtesting moving averages, but it's a viable strategy to use them. I'm not saying they're like awful. Another popular one, this is the BitBoy Alpha, the 921. Why do I have this on here? There it is. Right, like depending on your time frame, some of these MA crosses are going to be great if you want to trade like super quickly. 921, the 1050, I think is the backtested. Let me try to find this tweet really quick because I think it was actually Suzu who tweeted this. Backtested MA cross Twitter Bitcoin. I remember a picture of Bloomberg Terminal, somebody that did it. I thought it was actually Suzu who did the backtesting. Anyway, I know for sure it was the 1050 over time. At that time, that was actually the best, the most profitable cross. But again, it's up to you. So another thing you could do on top of this is add like a trailing stop loss. We're getting deep in the weeds now. This is like deep. Let's you know, again, this is up to you. You have to like get a feel for what you want to use. Let's say we're using the 1050. That's too small. I don't know. I guess my point is you have to play around with it. Or you can just say, never mind, I'm going to use the alligator. Alligator's 3, MA's 5, 8, 13. Simple moving averages. And what you don't want is analysis paralysis. Obviously, you just want to be able to put it on there, see what you're doing, and get it over with. This looks great on the 4-hour. Got you all the way down there, you know, but it's not going to be like that every time. And it doesn't take you out just yet, just based on the crosses. BM, thanks for the super. I don't know if that helps Aquarius, but that's how I would think about it, is just play around with what you like and see how that works. People have found stuff that works for them, like the alligator, but that might not work for ETH, for example, or for Solana. Like, what does it look like on Solana? Looks fine to me, you know? Got you in down here, maybe took you out and back in up here. But if you're looking for like crosses in that type of strategy, looks fine. How this one works is you want to see green, red, blue. That's bullish. You want to stay above the midline, which is the red line, which can act as a trailing stop. And if you ever cross below the red line, that's you getting stopped out of the long. And if you ever crisscross on the moving averages here, that would be taking you out of the trade as well. So for Solana, in this time frame, you'd want this to remain green, red, blue. Yeah, another thing you can do is, I don't talk about this too often, but if I'm taking a trade, like let's take the Solana trade, for example, right? If I turn back to candles, if I'm taking this trade, which I did down here on leverage, on the daily, I go down one time frame, I cut it in half, I go to the 12-hour, and then I pop on, it's called Williams fractals, and that also acts as a trailing stop loss. How this works is you get a bullish support fractal, you get a high, low, high, you get a bearish resistance fractal, if you get a low, high, low, and together this gives you entry and exit, because if you're in the long from 25, it's telling you here's your trailing stop, here's your trailing stop as it's moving up. So currently your trailing stop on this is all the way down at 31. And it's also telling you entries, like I said, anything breaking above these bearish fractals, which you want candle closes above or below. So it would have gotten you back in at 33. It would have kept you in this trade from 25, which is something I didn't do. I'm not in this trade anymore, but as an example. And it's telling you currently 47 would be the re-entry. These are delayed like 2 candles. So obviously if this retraces all the way to 31, you know, it's not going to take you out based on a trailing stop loss right now. Over the next 2 days, if we hold at 38, 37, you will get a new support fractal, and then that will be your new trailing stop. So I really like the fractals as a system for that reason, for a trailing stop. I like that better than moving averages personally, because it gives you a super specific level, whereas moving averages, you know, it is dynamic, but I don't know, I like the fractal system better. So again, if I'm starting on the daily time frame for a trade, you can see on the daily, right, we haven't even had a support fractal this entire time. So if you are looking for where the support would be without sabotaging the trade, the last thing you want to do is go to the hourly, right, and say, oh, look at all these fractals here. You know, we're breaking all these fractals. You're going to drive yourself nuts. Just go to one time frame lower and see what you see, you know. Or if you're on a low enough time frame, like the 4-hour, you can just stay on the 4-hour for your signals. And some of this stuff is intuitive, right? Because this whole time we're just making higher lows. We never made a lower low that entire time, right? Now, I would have argued and did to some people at the time, like, this potentially is like a multi-shouldered head and shoulder or something, and like this could break down, which is part of the reason why I didn't stay in the trade. But if you're just watching something like this, it's not subjective, really. It's just, you're just waiting on the signals. Anyway. All right, let me catch up on chat here. How do you trade the Kumo twists? How do I trade the Kumo twists? Back to BTC for a second. As part of the checklist, you've got 4 things, right? Are we above or below the cloud? Do we have a bullish TK cross? Do we have a bullish cloud? And then the 4th one that I never use because I don't talk about it is the lagging span. Is the lagging span above or below cloud? So that's the checklist. Position relative to cloud, TK cross, cloud itself, lagging span. Because of the settings I use, I'd never look at the lagging span. I think it's too slow for me. It just kind of tells me stuff I already know personally, and so I don't bother. Really, it's just telling you, are we making higher highs or lower lows? That's really what it's telling you. The cloud itself helps confirm that we are bullish or bearish, right? It helps confirm the trend. But for me, most of the time, I'm looking at the Kumo breakout and the TK cross specifically. Like, those are super important to me. That's why we talked about that 28 level a couple weeks back. So it does help confirm the trade, and you can see over time how we make the cloud, and really that was our support level, right? The entire time, the entirety of the year for the most part. So we're currently drawing the support for the current trend. So as far as trading it, you want to stay above it if you're bullish, right? But the Kumo twist specifically, I use it as far as, like, you know, how bullish or bearish are we? But by the time we Kumo twist on my settings, we're kind of too late if you're on the daily for entries. I'm just looking at that to confirm the trade. Now you could say, I'm gonna open along if we have 2 of the 4, you know, if we are above the cloud, if we are making a bullish TK cross, right? And then you could say the cloud flipped, I'm adding to that position, you know, something like that. If we replay this, we can see where the cloud went bullish. They have changed these, and I don't know how to do this. Hold on. It's not working. What is going on? TradingView, what are you doing? All right, there we go. You can see it's ready to go. So we got our 28, right? That would be your first entry. And then you're adding to your position right there. You know, it's not perfect, but it does help confirm where we're going. This is obviously pretty late in this trade to be adding, but we also are breaking highs, right? Anyway. So yeah, you could use singled settings and use the lagging span. You could do whatever you want. You know, it's just like the moving averages, whatever you're comfortable with. I've just used this for so long. I know what to do, so I don't really think about it anymore. But yeah, you can use the lagging span. There's nothing wrong with that. ARB. Yeah, I'm rambling. I need to start looking at these alts. Run to DOS asks, can I look at MSTR? I can. You want to just go down the list here? We'll start with MSTR. What is this squiggle? Oh, this is the cup and handle squiggle. So what the chart pattern purists will tell you is certain patterns are continuation patterns and certain patterns are reversal patterns. Meaning you cannot see a cup and handle at the bottom of a trend, is what they will tell you. I will tell you, as somebody who's traded this for many years, you can. So maybe it isn't a cup and handle. I don't know. But it certainly looks like a cup and handle to me. It is, let's go back to the legacy cloud. It doesn't really matter, but sometimes it matters for positioning or entry exit. So it is above the daily cloud. Where are we at on the weekly cloud? It is in the weekly cloud. 517, whatever that is, would be the level to complete the edge to edge. I would call this a cup and handle, potentially. I mean, if you want to get cute with it, you could say, well, maybe this is a multi-headed, multi-shouldered. I don't know, right? It doesn't matter. The point is, there's nothing bearish about this, right? We broke down at a high. We're retesting it. It looks good. I think this goes higher eventually. In the near term, $670 to $800 would be the level based on using fibs. I'm looking at the range high, range low, projecting upwards. This is also the kind of like the 4,200 level for Bitcoin a little bit. You can kind of see it. Maybe that's like the 52K level. Maybe this is the 4,200 level down here. Anyway, it looks good. Trend looks good. Looks fine. What you don't want to see is anything below the daily cloud, which would be 370. Anything below that, I would avoid. Even in like the near term zoomed in view, you could argue that this is a cup and handle. And then the chart pattern purists would be fine with that. You could say, well, maybe we haven't made our handle yet. Whatever. It looks fine. Looks bullish. Looks good. As you'd expect it to. It's basically Bitcoin, right? So it looks good. Yes, Jack. I will look at KDA. All right, that's MSTR. Let's look at Coin. Coin has done a whole lot of nothing, but to me, Coin isn't like a chart that I trade. It's just an idea, because if you think BlackRock and any other ETF is going to use Coinbase to acquire the Bitcoin, you'd think that would be bullish for Coin. I think the exchange is an abomination. I think the fees are ridiculous, but but it is what it is. You know, they're not using Kraken. At least they're not. No one's talked about using Kraken yet on their SLA or SSA or whatever it is, the documentation. From a cloud perspective, it's back above the daily cloud. It's noisy. Doesn't look horrible. Doesn't look great, but doesn't look horrible. It looks okay. The miners, we'll start with WGMI. WGMI is the basket of miners. It was in a pretty aggressive bearish channel along with all the other miners. It's broken out above that over the past week, and it is mean reverting to the Kijun. So another way you could draw this is maybe kind of like MSTR. Maybe this is some sort of bottoming inverted head and shoulders. And ultimately, you know, there is an edge-to-edge trade here on the weekly, or sorry, on the daily, through the daily cloud, which would be 14. So most of the miners probably look similar to this, but this looks really good. As a trade idea, I think it looks good. Clean Spark. Yeah, there's also that. There's also this like macro head and shoulders you have to sort of dodge. Clean Spark looks okay. You know, these aren't bearish, right? They're not above the cloud. This is a contra trend trade, but it looks okay. Marathon. Yeah, I was kind of saying the same thing with the head and shoulders. Is that on? I mean, I guess. I don't. You just have to be careful. I'm generally bearish miners, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but you got to be careful of that. There is an edge-to-edge move here. That's viable. Marathon, yeah. So they all look about the same. I think it's tough. You want miners to succeed. I think we all do, probably, but it's just a tough business. What's up, Mer? Oh yeah, ARC. Let me pull up my ARC chart because I did see today a bunch of the ARC basket was up like 20%. Joe, I'll check that. I'll go back to that in a second. So ARC is an ETF, Kathy Wood. I think most people know what that is, but I was saying that the other day, somebody pointed out this chart that they were super bearish, that they think this is going to break all the way back down to 20. And based on what's in this, I would agree. But based on this cloud setup, you do have to watch for a potential edge-to-edge move on this. This is the weekly ARC chart. There is also maybe an inverted head and shoulders here that I thought was done, right? It looked like it failed. So I don't know. I don't know why this basket of nonsense is up 20% today, but it is. There's also like this macro, I'll go here. You know, I can't not see this stuff. I know people make fun of me, but I mean, you probably know what I'm gonna say. You know, it kind of has this going on, which is fine. Like it's possible that I could be bullish, but it's got to get above 50 to cancel out that right shoulder. You know, it's got a shot. I don't love it, but it's got a shot. By the way, this reminds me of the biotech chart too, right? The biotech chart, same thing. Just a massive head and shoulders. This is what? 7 years? 8 years? Anyway. Back to Riot. You said it was on the weekly edge to edge. Weekly edge to edge. Yeah. I don't hate it. Your stop loss would be the bottom of the cloud, which is also any lower low. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Is there an edge on the daily too? No. I don't know. It looks okay. I don't play with the miners because I just think I'm better off using leverage on a spot position or something. But look, if that's your bag, I don't hate it. Let's look at GBTC real quick. GBTC. See, now this is what you want to see in Solana, right? we can make a wick, we can make triple wicks, quadruple wicks, but if we close a candle above the previous weekly wick here for GBTC, super bullish. It's already well on its way to that edge-to-edge move. The premium, or the discount, is down to 12%. So it's got a little bit of ways still. Weekly RSI is almost on Mars, but looks okay. As a holder of GBTC, still, I'm happy that it looks like this. It completed the gap. It is still in this like trend channel. It's above the cloud. You know, there's a bunch of reasons why it's bullish, but I do think it's overextended here, which is why I'm surprised it retraced, especially when BTC's down 1.5% on the day. GBTC's up 2%. So that's good. That's what we want to see. This tells me people think an ETF's coming. That's what it tells me. Not even for GBTC, just in general. OBTC is another closed-end, super low-volume product. I don't think the discount's as... Maybe it is as big as GBTC now, but something else to add to your radar. ETH looks okay. Let me find, hold on. I have it somewhere, I thought. Let me find the ETH premium or discount. Where would that be? Is it here? Just way too many charts. Where do I have it? Where do I have it? Maybe it's here. Here it is. I'm sure of it. ETH is at -19 still. Discount. So from a risk reward perspective, maybe ETH is the play. Maybe ETH is the play over spot ETH still, you know, and that would make sense based on a discount, because it's saying, look, there's an additional 19% potentially if the discount continues to close. That'll just gets given to you, right? if the discount closes. And this chart is making highs, whereas ETH spot looks like trash still, right? This looks good. I like it. Is it in the weekly cloud? It's also in the weekly cloud. 26 is the level on ETH. You know, maybe here's another trade idea. Maybe you rotate your GBTC position into an ETH position. Something for myself to think about. As this starts to look good. It just depends on, you know, are you trading GBTC based on the weekly cloud target, or are you waiting for an ETF to see if we get some blow off ridiculous move? Anyway, then there's these other basket products. GDLC, Grayscale product also looks fine. It's got mostly Bitcoin and ETH. Looks great. BitW, same thing. Mostly Bitcoin and ETH through Bitwise. Looks fine. Looks okay. Let me talk about, well, let's look at DXY real quick. DXY. DXY is kind of at a point where it's super neutral up here, which is good for us, but we really don't want this to make a high, especially for alts. If we break 107 on DXY, that'd be really bad. Because that would just probably pull more liquidity out of the entire ecosystem and just make everybody angry around the world. The dollar strength may be topping because the Fed is done, potentially. There's a lot of like Fed whispering and whatever else to think about here, but From a TA perspective, this could continue. And if you zoom out, maybe you argue this is just a markup phase or something, right? You could argue like this is just a massive flag, and yeah, we're going to hit 110 plus, and it's going to be miserable. I don't hate that argument. What does the weekly look like? Yeah, it's even above the weekly. Like, look at this on the weekly. This could easily keep going, you know. That's a very, you know, the market's come to an equilibrium. It's selling off one week, it's buying off another week. But typically when we see this, it's continuation. So let's pray for all of our sakes that that's not the case. But in the moment, it does look neutral on the daily. Anything above 107, and that could be quite ugly. S&P. This is a move that I talked about a lot on the Macro Monday videos and the Setup Sunday videos. I'm like, listen, guys, it's a head and shoulders. It's going to break down. It did. It went through the cloud, bearish edge to edge. It hit its target on the head and shoulders. I know this is like noisy and hard to see. Even though I had this potentially rotate out of USTs into S&P on this chart, I still didn't do it. Everybody got super bearish, including me. And you know what? I missed it. But the idea was there and perfect. I didn't pull the trigger. Yeah. It's up. Let's just go from 4,100. From 4,100, it's up 5%. So pretty crazy bounce. Now it's still bearish by cloud standards. You know, it's still below the daily cloud. So maybe I'll be okay, but that is definitely a missed trade from me. If the cloud gets above 43.50, or sorry, if the price gets above 43.50, then we're bullish on the S&P. Q's kind of the same. If we can get back above this daily cloud, above the diagonal resistance, again, I know this is noisy, but ultimately this is the pie in the sky trade for legacy. No one's going to argue with me that this is not a cup and handle, okay? Which is great. This is similar to Link. You want stuff that's obvious, right? We're far from this thing actually playing out, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. If, for whatever reason, markets get crazy and bullish, and we don't go into recession, and all the doomers are wrong again, you know, something to watch for. What was the other? Oh yeah, NVIDIA. What does NVIDIA look like today? So yeah, all that stuff looks really good. Now, alternatively, you know, there's stuff like IWM, which is like the low cap stuff that doesn't look happy. You know, doesn't look happy. Looks quite upset, actually. But maybe that the Fed has stopped hiking. Maybe for sure, then things will work out for those companies. I don't know. The problem is they don't have coffers to work their way through the higher for longer stuff. They have to borrow, and they're borrowing at insane rates, and they can't afford it, and they're going under. NVIDIA. Let me just look at NVIDIA real quick. Apple's earnings are today, right? At the end of the bell. NVIDIA. Everybody was bearish on this, including me. It still looks like a head and shoulders potentially. I'm stopping out myself out of any short position above 450 based on the daily cloud. But looks good. Looks like it's actually going to try to retest those levels. Microsoft also looks phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So if as a group these Mag 7 can start turning the corner, that's how the QQQ head cup and handle works out. Tesla looks okay. Apple looks okay. Anyway. All right, let's look at some alts here quickly, because I know I've been talking for a while. I'm starting to lose my voice. All right, Pendle. Somebody wanted me to look at. We're just gonna look at random stuff now, just completely random. I don't know what this is. Pendle. Looks okay. I mean, it's simple, folks. If we're making higher highs, if we're making ascending triangles, love it. From a fib perspective, we have hit the consolidation targets. Other than that, I can't really say anything else. There's just not enough data on the chart, right? ARB, somebody wanted me to look at. Let's take a look. And we talked about this last week, or I talked about it this week sometime. A lot of these alt charts look like this, you know? They have a W double bottom, undeniably. The question is, what do you do? It broke out, it retraced back to the breakout level. If you like the alt, my argument is, look, just pull the trigger, put your stop loss at some level that makes sense. In this case, on ARB, 76 cents. Like, if you think this is a cycle low, go for it, right? I wouldn't, at least for me, I wouldn't think about it more than that. Now, not all charts are down. What is this? Jesus, what is this down? Like, it was down 92%. Not all the charts are down this quickly. Some of them, like AVAX, right? Someone was asking me on AVAX. It took AVAX like 2 years to break down 90%, right? What is this? 94%. But the same exact thing applies here, you know? Like, if you think this is a cycle bottom, which, hey, it could be. I've seen worse as far as bottoms are concerned, but you know, you trade this as a long. I wouldn't leverage any of this stuff. I think alts are leveraged just as a sector anyway, but you know, you play that as a breakout and that's your stop loss and that's it. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to do. I wouldn't go nuts massaging this thing. Like, are you here for like a 2x or are you here for like a 20x? You know, like what are you trading alts for? Are you trading the range? Are you trading this to the diagonal resistance? All those questions are fair to answer for whatever you're doing, you know? Like, I can't answer that for you, but you also want to get out of this thing, this channel. Like I said in one of the videos, I like AVAX, what is it? I like AVAX above 15, you know? I'm not here to like play around in anything from 10 to 13 or whatever. I don't like AVAX as a coin, but if I was trading this, I like it above 15. I want no doubt about it, right? Like, this thing is bullish, the sector is bullish, the market's bullish. Like, that's when I want to touch this thing. I don't want to touch this thing, try to catch a knife or something. You know, alternatively, we go back to ADA, like if we go all the way back to, what is it? Is this even, yeah, maybe? Was ADA before? Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong chart. I mean, you could go like macro bottoms off of W double bottoms are a thing. As an example, if we go ETH 2016, right? The literal bottom. What was the literal bottom? It was an Adam and Eve, you know? So yeah, this could be the literal bottom across the board. Could be. I don't think it will be, but like the risk reward on that holding something that's down 94% long term. If you're a believer, yeah, go for it. Nobody cares about ADA, I know. I don't care about ADA, okay, but as a trade setup, similar type of thing. It has this Adam and Eve. I like it above 40 cents, above 35 cents. You know, it looks okay. Looks okay. Eventually. I don't think it's out of the woods, but again, it's down how much since it was down 92%, now it's down 90%. That's no guarantee this thing bounces. But look, if you're trading alts, that's what I'm looking for. How do I recommend buying Bitcoin? Not financial advice. I do a couple things. I do River. River is great because you can do DCA for free. And you can connect to your bank account, whatever. So I like River, and I like Kraken. And then, of course, there's DeFi if you want to, you know, swap something for WBTC or whatever. But Kraken and River are my two. Looking for ideas on taking profits and rotating into Bitcoin high time frame, says Mirrodin. I mean, look, I don't like shitcoins, so I'm the person to literally what I did on my Sol leverage position: sell it at 33, rebuy Bitcoin when I think Bitcoin started to look good at, I don't know the exact level, like 34.7 or something. Like, I wouldn't overthink it, but that's one way to do it. Or just sell half on a double, sell something, you know, acknowledge that, yeah, we're probably a little bit overheated here. Doesn't mean you sell like a spot position or everything, but that's one way to just slowly rotate into quality. Do I hold BitX longer than day? Yeah, I've held BitX for like, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't really care about that stuff. I know the fees are high, but what are you gonna do? You know, it's not a big position, but Rudy asks something about fractals going down a time frame. I heard you say that in the past you go up a time frame. Yeah, so for the trend stuff, like this, like I'm on the 3-day cloud, right, for ADA. I will go up a time frame for stuff like this, but if I'm in a position, in a leverage position or something, and I'm looking for a trailing stop loss, sometimes the daily is not quick enough for that because crypto's super volatile and we can just retrace super quickly, right? So if I'm looking for a trailing stop loss, I'll typically go down half on the time frame. So look at the 12-hour instead of the daily, for example. I don't look at the Dow, but we can. What is it DJI? Some sort of notes there on the Dow. You could argue the same thing with the QQQ and the S&P, right? Maybe this ends up as a cup and handle. You know, maybe. I don't know. I think the Qs have the best shot at that because of how they've traded this year. But yeah, I don't hate that on the Dow. Looks okay. What else? Any other alts? XMR. Let's look at XMR. XMR was looking okay. Yeah, I think it looks fine. Is it going to outperform the most of the alt market? Probably not. It's hard to get. Period. If it was easier to buy and it was on every exchange, sure. But from a just pure TA perspective, looks great. From a target perspective, kind of low because this isn't a wide pattern, right? But 213 to 240 looks okay. I'm just measuring the ascending triangle. That's all I'm doing. From a trend perspective, it's above the 3-day cloud. I think it looks great, honestly, on the USD pair. Even on the BTC pair, it had this like inverted head and shoulders that broke down, unfortunately. I don't think it doesn't look as good as it did a couple weeks ago for like edge to edge play, right? It looked like it wanted to do something like that, but did not. It did not. Melon. Let's take a look at Melon. Is it? It's not Melon anymore. It's crap. What is it? I can't remember what it. They had to change the ticker because BNY Melon went after them. Whatever. Binance still has it as Melon apparently. Doesn't look great. Not something I would focus my energy on at the moment. Nano kind of looks the same, you know? Like, here's your long-term resistance. It's also a psychological level. Anything above $1 on Nano, sure. Let's take a look at FTM, but it's not there yet, you know? Set an alert at $1 and you're laughing. FTM. This goes back to like that cycle high, cycle low idea. It's like, okay, over the past 3 years, these are the levels. We can even take the cloud off. We can just say, what's 50% of this? It's log, so it looks funky. 181. Like if this is a cycle low for FTM, not an endorsement, but 181 looks okay. But I would trade this as a range when you're like that. You know, again, it's kind of like the golden olden days of Doge. Now I sound like a real boomer. Sorry, it's Doge BTC, Polo, old school baby. Before Doge became the popular kid, you know. You just say, look, it's in this range. Buy the bottom, sell the top. Don't think about it in between. You know, that's how you can probably treat a lot of these alt USD pairs. Link was the same. You know, you could have traded that as a range. I just thought it was going to go higher, and it did. But that may happen for some of these. That's how I trade that. CeeLo. CeeLo. Yeah, this goes back to the like Adam Eve or W double bottom idea, right? And it's tried this before. It failed, but it has tried this before. So like, let's say the last time this happened, you're long here, which is basically where we're at, or you buy it on spot or whatever. What I was saying on anything else, like your stop loss is lower lows. That might happen again. I don't know. But it doesn't look horrible. I just don't know how much appetite there is for stuff like this. You could also say there's a giant diagonal here, kind of like Solana, and it's looking okay. I don't hate it. Where do I think it would go in a cycle? For anything, just take the 50%. If we're generous, 580. Realistically, 360. Possible. OP. JJ asks a full trading plan for OP. Full trading plan. Let's go to Binance. Doesn't this have like super high emission? I can't remember. You'd have to look. But if this is getting massive unlocks, and there are people, let me just look on DeFi Llama. For those of you who don't know, DeFi Llama, let me introduce you to the most powerful free DeFi tool. Where is the unlocks? There it is. I only bring this up because I thought there was, yeah, so 26 days to the next unlock. It doesn't always matter, and the amount of coins that are unlocking here might be way higher than daily volume, but everybody's looking at this who knows anything about anything, so I'm telling you, you just have to dodge stuff like this. Also, what is FTX selling? I don't know. Anyway, I bring all that up because the chart itself just looks okay. Range bound, you know, it doesn't look super bearish. It's not making lows. It's, I don't even know. Does it have anything? Maybe a triangle? I don't know. It doesn't really have anything. Maybe you could argue like a high time frame, something like, no, I'm just being silly. Like an Adam and Eve, a W double bottom, like it's done this before back here, right? It had this ascending triangle quality. I think, I mean, that would take a while to play out here, but maybe. I don't know. I like anything above $1.70. Anything above $1.70, I think I like it better. But it kind of looks like ETH, doesn't it? Just a bunch of nothing. If you want to like go lower, you could probably say, well, anything above $1.45, maybe this morphs into something tradable. Like, I don't know. Just looks ranging and yucky to me. Yeah, doesn't look great. Doesn't look horrible, you know. If this gets bearish, it'll start breaking that 114 low or whatever. But in the moment, it doesn't look too bad. Just doesn't look like anything I would pay attention to. Celestia is asking somebody, Isaac, I think. I don't know, what is there a ticker for that? I tried to look it up the other day. Yeah, it just got listed on Coinbase. Big Lots, man, I remember Big Lots. Yeah, there's not a lot of trading history for this, so it's hard, you know? You have to imagine VC's got this at some level, you know, maybe $1. I don't know if this is even the right ticker. So you think this is like a cycle play? I just think you ignore this until everything gets bullish, right? I wouldn't buy this personally, but you know, the chart is kind of meaningless in the moment. There's just not enough data. Who knows what's going on here? You can see where it kind of had this like head and shoulders quality to it that broke down. Now it's got like this, you know, Adam and Eve, like if I'm just making stuff up, right? It's neutral, it's not anything. It's just, there's not enough data. I agree, biggest of coins. Sam sold all the BTC years ago, so there's no BTC sell pressure from FTX. So, all right, Big Lots, man. I'm guessing this looks horrendous. I'm just guessing. Yeah. A lot of these retailers look like absolute death. Target does not look good for them. I mean, this reminds me of the Delta chart too, which is the airline. Also looks very angry. You know, there's a lot of charts that look very, very angry. This is Target. Disney was at the lows as well. The thing about this chart that I've not really paid too much attention to, but you can kind of see it. I just think the business is in trouble. I think everything's too expensive, but Disney does have a falling wedge. It's undeniable, you know. The mouse may have a rebound here. So I wouldn't short this, but I don't know if I'm brave enough to take a trade on that. Another one is PayPal. Similar story where it had this like crazy falling wedge that it broke down from. Anyway. In a market that's swayed and swung, Josh stood out. Oh, thanks, Rio. Yeah, cloud, man. It's free, it's easy, everybody can do it. Love it. Love the cloud. ENS. I've got some ENS in an airdrop. Let's look at the USD pair first. Oof. I mean, you got to think there are people like me who are still holding an airdrop, who are happy to sell it at 17. You know, so that's a problem. It's clearly got this like defined range that's below. I just think in general trading airdrops is tough because you've got a lot of people who just have the coin, a lot of bag holders potentially, a lot of people who have like not time stamped, but whatever. They have an idea of what this is worth in their wallet and it's way below that level, right? I don't hate it. I just wouldn't trade it, you know. From a trend perspective, it is potentially above the daily cloud at 850. I just think there's a lot of people who are underwater on this. You just got to be careful. But you asked about ENS BTC. Let's take a look. Let's actually do this. Let's use the Coinbase times BTC. Is that right? Will this give us the right chart? Maybe? No, that's not right. Divided by BTC. That's what I need to do. There we go. I mean, I guess I wouldn't touch this, but you know, if you like want to catch a knife or something, it just has this parabolic puke to it, and it hasn't been above the daily cloud since 2022. Not something I would touch until it's back above the daily cloud, personally. As an idea, though, I love the product, the protocol. The token, I'm not so sure what it does, but Bittest of Coin says he went shopping in a mall 2 weeks ago for the first time in years. It's crazy how dead retail is. Everything is cheaper online. So I will agree, everything is cheaper online. One thing around me, there's like this luxury mall that's always busy. My question is like, who goes to the mall and buys like a Rolex, you know? I don't know. I've never bought a Rolex. I don't even know what I would look for, but Rolex, Burberry, like all these super like high-end, you know, like luxury, LVMH, stuff like that. Just packed. The mall's just packed. Crazy. All right, PDD. Is this that Chinese thing? PDD. Did I say cup and handle last week? It doesn't look bad. From a trend perspective, looks okay. Is it overbought? No, but it did have the beginnings of a bear div, right? Higher high, less momentum. Doesn't look horrible. I don't know. It's not for me, but you'd probably want this back above 101. Maybe this ends up being a cup and handle. But yeah, not for me in the moment. Let's check Apple real quick. I'm assuming the earnings came out. They did, and Apple's just interesting to look at because everybody has it for the most part. Maybe earnings didn't come out yet. I don't know. Probably not. Can we get a cloud basics video? Jack, there are lots of those on the channel. If you go searching a little bit, or just type in cloud in the YouTube channel, you'll find them. All right, let's look at 4 more charts: oil, gold, uranium, and KDA. Then we'll get out of here. I've been ranting for too long. Binance, I hope this is the right chart. Yeah, I mean, look, you probably know what I'm going to say. Is it above the daily cloud? No. Has it realistically been above the daily cloud since listing? No. Is it almost above the daily cloud? Yeah, it is almost above the daily cloud. So, you know, if it can hold that 55-cent level, I don't hate it. Doesn't look completely terrible. I would want to see some strength over a long period of time to be certain that this thing would actually play out, because you know the classic is Zcash, right? You'll get these periods of excitability and momentum throughout time, but you know, the end result is still the same. Down and to the right. New low for Zcash, by the way, all time. I just love to bring this chart up because it's something that's been listed for so long and just continuously makes lows. You know, this is potentially what you gotta dodge on every single alt that you trade. Yeah, okay, look at Rune. I lied, 4 more charts. Rune. Is it in the weekly cloud? It is not. That's okay. Well above the daily. It's had quite a week based on memory. As far as percent move, I don't know, it just feels kind of late for some of this stuff, you know, if you're not in it already. Hopefully not a megaphone here. Cloud support's at like 229-ish. I'd assume as a group, all of crypto eventually has some retracement to it. The question obviously is, does it make another high first? Like, do we go to 42K and then retrace on BTC? I just wouldn't trust. You know, I've got the, what is it, bullish PTSD. You know, I wouldn't trust any high on anything right now, personally. But it looks good. Does look good. RSI is kind of in the stratosphere, but it looks okay, you know. You want to dodge the wicks, you want to dodge the bear divs, that sort of thing. All right, oil, I said Monday had a Head and Shoulders brewing on it, and it looks to be the case still. Bounced slightly in the daily cloud, in the crypto cloud, yeah, in the legacy cloud. We want this to sell off, honestly. We don't want this to be above 85. I don't think there's a trade here personally. Just super ranging and angry. Is it, I was gonna say, is there like a falling wedge or something here? I don't think so. I don't know, I would avoid that. Is this the chart? No, somebody was asking about GBCI. I forget the commodity index. Anyway, one of these commodity indexes had a better Head and Shoulders. Uranium, is UUUU the best ticker? I always forget which one's the best ticker for that. I mean, it looks okay, you know, it doesn't look horrible. Doesn't look horrible. Almost back above the weekly cloud. Doesn't look horrible. Looks like it tried to break down, reconsolidated, and is doing okay. Not a terrible looking chart. All right, what's the last one here? Gold. Gold, gold, gold. There be gold in these hills. Yep, gold. We'll see who breaks 2K first and holds it. I mean, everybody's watching that level. It hasn't held that level. There's stories of all these central banks buying more gold than they ever have, and yet here we are, you know. We've got 2 wars. We've got almost World War III. We've got bonds exploding, and gold is still below 2K. So, I don't know what to say. It's got a mega cup and handle, but until it's above 2K, what are you going to do? Thoughtful action on the after 2-hour question asking what tickers stand out to me. So we talked about Link, we talked about Sol, we talked about AAVE. As a group, there's like 5 coins to me that look good that we probably see pullbacks in before we see continuation, but I don't think alts collectively are the move right now. I think you have to be very selective there. And that's kind of it. I don't think there's anything that's like holding some level, you know. We're waiting on some chart pattern other than like gold, but that this isn't something I would trade because it takes 3 years for this thing to actually do anything. That's all I got. Did coins earnings come out? Yeah, give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me something here, give me something. Coins earnings, maybe it was positive, negative. I don't know. I don't know anything about earnings, folks. I'm just a crypto guy. All right, that's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, not financial advice. And we'll talk to you guys Sunday, right? Or tomorrow if we record with Ledger. I'll let you know on Twitter. Happy trading.